I'm Senator Bob Huff. Thank you for joining me for my Capitol comment for the week of April 11th, 2011. Today, the Senate Budget Committee heard what an all-cuts budget would do to education. Now, we're not quite sure why we held this committee because, frankly, the Speaker of the Assembly said earlier in the week that they weren't going to do an all-cuts budget, period. And yet we went through this, and our understanding is that the budget show is going to go on the road next Friday and then probably a week or two after that. So they'll do 3 or 4 places up and down the state. So what are they trying to accomplish? The reality is nobody wants an all-cuts budget. Certainly the Senate Republicans answered that by providing a roadmap to the governor that would help him accomplish what he wanted. The governor created a budget with a $14 billion tax hole and said, just let the people decide. And so if the people are going to vote, the Senate Republicans said they ought to have more than just one choice, and they ought to be able to vote to cap the spending of the state, because frankly that's what's got us into trouble. And they should also be able to reform pensions, because the Stanford report says we're about $500 billion upside down over the next 20 years. That's got to be fixed, and it's got to be fixed now. So the Senate Republicans laid out a roadmap. They said no, and so here we go looking for the next step and how we're going to close that budget gap. April 15th is coming. That'll be tax day, and by 2 weeks after that, about May 1st, we should have a clear idea of what the revenues look like. There's some that think revenues are rising, and if that's the case, there'll be less that has to be backfilled in other ways. So that's really what's happening right now is we're in a holding pattern trying to figure out how much revenue the state's going to have this year for last taxable year. And finally, I'd like to talk a little bit about regulations. Carl's Jr. recently talked about expanding restaurants outside of the state in which they were founded. They grew up here in California, but they find it so much cheaper to create businesses outside of here that's what they're doing rather than expand here. So they're maintaining what they have, but when it comes to restaurant expansion, it's happening elsewhere where there's fewer regulations, fewer taxes, and frankly, just easier to get the job done. We keep hearing of other businesses that are likewise going elsewhere, and it begs the question, what can we do to help create businesses? I have a bill, SB 396, that seeks to look back over the regulations that we have. We have 28,000 pages of regulations that have grown over the years. We don't systematically look at it. That's what my bill would do. And it passed out of Government Organization Committee with bipartisan support. We'll see if it makes it through the rest of the legislature. Well, I do want to thank you for joining me. I'm Senator Bob Huff.